Welcome back to Y254 TV. This is still Y in the Morning. I hope you've learned something about your skin from that short feature. But then again, we are shifting gears to Empowerment Cafe, where we do inspiring stories. And last week you were with Faith Muhonja and she shared her story. Alafu nikasikia hiyo story haikuisha, kuna mali ilibaki na kuna mali mliachwa mko hanging. So nataka kuwa unhang leo. So she is here to complete that story. Let's give her a chance to say hi to you. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Good to see you. Nilikungoja how many weeks ago? Oh my God. I waited for you like almost a month ago. I didn't see you. And I was like, fine. Sawa tu. Maybe I was not meant to see her. Finally, I've been able to see you. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
So, mimi mwenye sikukuwa last week, nikasikia mlipiga story kabaki halfway. Sijui kama unataka kunifanyia recap, ama unataka tu kuendelea.
We can continue.
Okay, so where do you want to continue from?
So last week we touched on several things. We looked at trauma, we looked at grief and anger issues and management. So I think, yes, that is where we left it at.
So umetaja kila kitu yenye ni kama na feel I want to hear that and I want to hear that and I want to hear that. Then I'm like, okay, sawa, calm down, Grace, calm down. It's fine. It's fine. So I will give you the liberty to start where you want to start, or rather to continue where you want to continue.
Okay, so I currently work at Thika Women Prison, and I interact a lot with women who have different stories. So one thing that keeps on standing out for me is that most times these women are not given a chance to be understood, probably, and they are judged because of what they did. But I think as a society, when we embrace them and we just love on them, then there's a better chance of them becoming better, actually. Yeah.
How is it working there?
It's a new experience. I actually love it because I'm exposed to different kinds of people from different backgrounds with different stories. Yeah.
Okay. So now let me ask you this question, because I was not there last week, but I know Sakwa did. Why did you choose your career path?
I chose it because in my earlier days, I had a lot of issues, like a lot of personal issues. And at that time, I didn't really have someone there for me. So growing up, I always wanted to be there for people when they're going through issues in life. And when I was looking for something that would give me fulfillment, it just crossed my mind that this is something I would enjoy doing for the rest of my life, actually. Like waking up and being there for people, like it isn't something I will grow tired of doing. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to share some of those issues? Like your personal story. Personally, I love personal stories.
Okay. So at one point in my life, I had a lot of self-esteem issues, and it actually made me withdraw a lot from people. I used to feel like probably, the comparison with people. Yeah, that was the major issue, actually. And I think just growing up and knowing that I was enough, and there is no need to compare yourself to other people. We are all on different journeys. That has really worked for me. Yeah.
Okay. So as a woman who deals with, now, I don't know, how do I place this? As a woman, as a counselor who's into grief, trauma, and all that, okay, I'm trying to find a way to niko nayo kwa akili kuitoa ndio
Inakuwa
ushaisikia I know what I want to ask, but the way it's coming out is not the way I want it to come out. That's where I am at. But as a counselor who deals with a lot of these issues, especially in this current society, or rather we are in a season where mental health has become such an issue. What would you say is the biggest contributor of mental health issues?
I think, as I mentioned in the previous show, the greatest for me is the issue on just limiting yourself, limiting beliefs. Probably there is more you can become, but there are things which you have to work through for you to fully become that. And I think a lot of maybe inadequate knowledge and awareness on mental health issues. Yeah.
How is it dealing with these issues?
Dealing with the mental health issues.
How easy or how difficult is it?
I think as long as the society can become empowered and get knowledge on these issues, it will become a lot easier. Though looking at where we are right now and where we were a few years ago, we are definitely on a better ground right now.
Okay. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your personal journey prior to you becoming a counselor?
I think a lot of insecurities on even settling on this prior. So, and of course, just the thought of always having people that need to lean on you, even when you're not okay as per se. Yeah.
Can you share an inspiring story of someone you've dealt with that? I know sometimes it goes against code of conduct, but then we don't have to mention names. Just a case study of someone you've dealt with who had either trauma or an addiction or what do we call this? The other one, grief. Was going through grief, and it's something worth noting.
So a few years back, I worked in a rehabilitation center, and there was a young lady who had an issue with alcohol addiction for a very long time. So when she actually came to the center, she had not yet accepted that this was an issue. She was still in denial. But eventually, after a few sessions, she actually came to a place of accepting and acknowledging that this was something she had to deal with. So eventually we had a few sessions, and from there she became better. By the time she was leaving the rehabilitation center, she was actually in a better space. And she's actually doing really well right now. She actually joined a group that advocates against drug abuse and encourages people, even those in addiction, to get into therapy. And she's really doing well. I'm so proud of her.
Oh, that has brought me to the question, like it just ran through my mind as you were talking about that woman. It has just crossed my mind. What's the most fulfilling part of your career?
Seeing people become whole after a long period of probably grief or addiction, you know, just seeing a person step up and become who they are meant to be. That's the most fulfilling part.
Ah, amazing. What's the most transformative experience you've ever witnessed in your career path?
The most
transformative experience.
Transformative. I would say the case of that lady, because she was really in a bad place when she started the therapy. But eventually, like seeing her become who she is, that is just the most transformative. Yeah.
I have personally, no, this is being vulnerable. Personally, I have ever found myself where I was in deep pain. And I think sometimes what we tend to do, especially in this our line of work, let me just call it like that in layman's language. In this line of work, utaachwa usiku asubuhi, you show up, or kikitu kitakufanyikia, you lose someone. It might not even have to do with a relationship. I don't know why we assume that pain comes from kuachwa na kuachana, like relationship. It comes from so many other things. But then again, personally, because I'm talking about myself in our line of work, you'll wake up in the morning, receive bad news, but you'll have sit here and smile at the camera and tell people good morning and tell people, I hope you're okay. And smile through or rather like smile through 3 hours. And then at times you realize that we are masking it. So how do you help people with deep emotional pain, especially those that do not want to come out? Those that will look like sour, but you can see beneath the smile there is something wrong.
You know, it's actually interesting that the most hurt people actually learn the arts of masking pain to such a point that you can't even pinpoint it if you're not careful. So in your line of work, you have mentioned sometimes you'll be going through a hard time, but you'll still have to show up. So I think it's important in as much as you have to show up. And of course, not everyone has to know where you are in life, but just getting someone you can be vulnerable with from time to time, even if it's just one person, it can be a friend, it can be a therapist. That is really helpful, because the more you mask pain or the more you suppress it, it is very likely one day you'll have an outburst and it might not be the best. So it's important to get someone. Yeah.
It has reminded me of a time. Niliachwa alafu siku, I didn't process it. So later, one day at 2 a.m. in the morning, I woke up and threw everything down. And I screamed my lungs out. And I was like, what happened? Like, what happened? I thought I was okay. I had it all together. And then all of a sudden, one day, I just wake up and scream. And I'm like, okay, interesting.
So the outburst eventually come. The more you bottle up issues, one day, you know, there'll be an outlet.
Utabust kama balloon.
Yeah.
Literally. Because I think it tends to be like a balloon.
Yeah.
When unapuliza, and then you don't see it, ikifura, and then eventually it becomes too big. And
exactly.
Then it bursts out. Are there types of trauma?
Yes, there are different types of trauma, depending on the specific experience a person goes through. So let's say these soldiers who go to war, the trauma they'll experience is different from family trauma. So yeah, there are different types of trauma.
Okay. You can tell us a few. I know you mentioned mbili.
There's also trauma that comes from loss, losing a loved one. There is generational trauma, probably if you...
Which one is that?
If your family was exposed to probably wars or even abductions. So that is something that can still affect a generation.
So do you know it's there, or you just wake up and realize they're ukonayo? Like, that's interesting. I want to know about that one.
There are usually symptoms of trauma. So the surest way is when you start experiencing these probably emotional symptoms or physical or psychological symptoms. And then you will know there's a problem. So it's not always that you will know this is trauma, but once you get to see a therapist, it's easier for them to point out eventually.
Another type.
Yeah, there is that, and trauma from abuse or even sexual assaults. Yeah.
Okay. So, us that are layman people, like watu wa kawaida, Mkenya wa kawaida, mama Wanjiko, mama Shiko, mama Mboga, like me, you are an expert in that field. So how do I tell that someone is going through something, even without them? You know, especially we just from talking about, you've raised a very valid point where you've said that the most hurt people have mastered the art of smiling and looking like they are okay. So how do we, because we live with people and we don't know if they are hurt. Maybe nimekuja job prof ajui kama niko sawa, but how are we able to tell that there's something not okay with her? What are the telltale signs?
I believe once you have interacted a lot with a person, it's easy to notice when they are not their usual self. Sometimes it may come with them withdrawing a bit more, or even minimizing interactions with other people. There are usually those small signs that you can tell if you are close with a person. For example, you have mentioned Prof. I believe he's your boss.
Prof is my colleague.
He's your okay. So him having interacted with you, he's able to tell even when you are smiling but there is some sadness in your eyes, or you are not smiling your usual authentic smile.
Okay. So how do we help people suffering from PTSD even before they come to you as a therapist? Because we stay with them at home, they are not okay. So we have ascertained that Flani is not okay. So how do we help them?
I think the most important thing is giving a listening ear. Just making them know that you're there for them and they can talk to you anytime. So I believe that's the most important, because as therapists we usually believe the main healing or the main therapy technique is just listening to a person. You don't have to even like talk or give anything more, but you being there and making them know that they can talk to you anytime. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you start your sessions?
As a therapist?
Yes.
I usually make my clients feel comfortable. You know, I get them at a place of easily opening up, just knowing that they can be vulnerable. And most times I also share a part of myself so that they can relate to me, you know, so that they don't think I'm this person up there. Yeah, so I usually make them know that it's a safe space. They can open up, and then we start the session, and as they share, I pick up probably whatever we might need to handle. Yeah.
Okay. What are some simple self-care routine that we can do in our daily lives, whether we are going through trauma or not? Sometimes they say precaution is better than, so what are some of the simple self-care precautions? What are the self-care practices you would recommend?
I think meditation exercises are so important. You can take even 10 minutes, 15 minutes of your day, every day, to just take meditation, deep breathing exercises whenever you're anxious, reading books, you know, just taking time off social media and television. Yeah, taking walks, those are really helpful. Exercise, yeah.
Let me ask you, now that you've mentioned meditation, I struggle. I struggle with meditation. What is meditation? Let me just wacha tu nijiulizie juu sasa sitaki kupretend najua because I hear people sit down, keep quiet, and then do this. Then I'm wondering, do? What's meditation? How do I? Okay, Sawa, just help me understand. Like, in layman's language, help me understand what meditation is.
So meditation is simply focusing on one thing, like clearing your mind of every other thing and focusing on just one thing. It may be instrumentals, it may be a scripture, or even just silence. You can choose to focus on silence and just take time and center and ground yourself in that moment, such that your mind is not occupied by any other thing. No other thoughts.
Hey, okay, interesting. Can I try it? Let me tell you, I think there's so much chaos in my mind that if I try to keep quiet, I don't know if I will survive.
And that's the importance of meditation, because actually it is recommended for people that have a lot of noises in their minds. Yeah.
Okay, so niambie too, like a 5-year-old, how do I start? Because I want to go and try today. I will bring back the results next week. Tell me, how do I start? Like, do I sit? Do I close my eyes? Do I breathe in? Do I breathe out? Like, what are the steps to meditation? Like, I am really, like, for real, I'm not pretending. I want to know. Because I've had people say, this is my meditation time. Or, I am a believer. I am a Christian. I'm born again. I hear people saying, na meditate. Unapata mtu amenyamaza anasema na meditate. Like, una meditate nini niongeleshe bana. Wewe acha kushinda ukimeditate. Like, I'm for real. I really want to go and try it today. Tell me. So, what are the steps? Because I chat nianze ku take notes sasa because serious.
You get a place where you can sit comfortably, and then you breathe in and out. Probably you breathe in 5 times and breathe out 10 times, and then you breathe in, hold your breath, and then breathe out. And then you choose something to focus on. So probably if you're a person who works best with background music, you can put on instrumentals. If you're a believer, you can choose to focus on one part of scripture, or you can choose to focus on one thought.
Okay.
Yes.
Sit comfortably. So I was taking notes, guys. Sit comfortably. Breathe in, breathe out. Ensure that it's calm. You can play something, maybe soothing music or a scripture. Now that I am born again, read a scripture and then focus my mind on that one thing. Okay, I'm a good student. I'm going to do it tonight. Let me see if it Hey, let me tell you, if it works, I will have to tell you. I will have to tell you if it works, because I know I'll get your number. I'll tell you if it works. If it will not, I will try it again tomorrow until it works. Because, hey, I think we are so much filled with so much hustle and bustle of life that we don't even get time to be quiet, to be with ourselves, and to just sit and be still. You know, mimi kama mimi nakuanga karukaruka, I can't keep quiet. I am, you know, in the morning I was coming here, and then I was listening to something on my phone, and then I think something happened, ikacha kuplay, and now because I'm an amateur driver, I cannot multitask to start saying wacha ni change alafu niendelee drive. So I had to, and I don't know if it's
the
something.
Silence was uncomfortable.
Yes! I am alone in the car and I'm like, I'm let not be this quiet. So in my mind I was like, do I stop and then play it again, or do you know what I did? I had to now sing or talk to myself. Actually, that's when I started saying, I am not afraid. I will get to work. I will get to work safely. I will drive safe. I will be okay. Like, I kept reaffirming myself because I was like, it's so quiet in here. I think I am not comfortable in silence. Am I okay?
You are. It's interesting though, you know, but I think meditation will really work for you, because it will help you to learn to embrace solitude, you know.
Mimi kwanza sipendi kuachwa. One, I am afraid of living alone. So I was trying to conquer that fear of living alone. So nilikama niwe conquer to some steps. So the first thing I did, I moved into a smaller house. Nikazoea a smaller house. I moved to a slightly bigger house. Then I was like, fine, let me see. Then I got used to the slightly. Now I have moved to an even bigger house with bigger rooms and big. So I am like, my God, hey, are you always living and you're alone? You know you're literally alone, but you're like, kuna mtu kwa nyumba, or I am those people. I am literally afraid of living.
It's understandable.
So I am trying to conquer those fears one by one. But then again, it's interesting.
It
Wow.
is.
I don't tell people these things oftenly. You see, you people, you shrinks, you're not nice people. You make us talk a lot. I mean, it was supposed to be me asking you questions, and it is me giving you stories. But
I'm a
anyway.
good listener.
But anyway, unaweza pata nimejipata hii ni therapy session, but like when ikwe a conversation. How does trauma affect relationships?
A lot of people that have gone through trauma usually struggle with even connecting with other people, more so when they haven't dealt with the trauma they experienced. So you'll find most times they are insecure even when in relationships, or they might keep on pulling away from time to time, you know. And if you are a partner to this person and you don't understand, or probably they have never shared, you might actually take it the wrong way. And yet they may be struggling, because most of them struggle with trusting people. So you'll find this person is in a relationship, but they have a lot of issues when it comes to trust. And I think it takes a lot of patience for partners of these people to just walk with them and embrace them without really, you know, putting pressure on them to become a certain way. Yeah.
I know you've dealt with people from different cultural backgrounds. What are some of the cultural beliefs that hinder people from getting support mentally or getting mental health support?
I think the greatest one is the labeling that comes with seeking mental help, because some people, once they know that you are actually actively seeking help, they will label you a crazy person. And of course, no one wants to be labeled that. So most people are limited from actually seeking help, even when they know they should, because of these labels that come with seeking help.
Okay, okay. As let me ask this later. But how can families, or rather people living with people with PTSD, suffering from grief, trauma, loss, and all that, how can we better show support to those people?
The most important thing is for these people to know that they are not alone, and just understanding that there's no pressure for them to become okay out of nowhere, you know. The constant reassuring that whatever they are going through, they will come out of it, no matter how long it takes. Just being supportive and understanding in whichever stage they are, even in those issues, is such a great thing. Yeah.
What advice would you give someone who feels stuck in their trauma?
It is so easy to actually feel stuck in trauma, but the most important thing is to know that it won't always be the same. Like, as long as you have sought help and you are actively in therapy, it might look like you're stuck at some stages, but actually the main thing is whenever a person feels stuck, it is because they're actually making progress. They're actually making progress. So it's important to keep on, even when you're feeling like it's not working. You stay there and you work through it, because eventually you'll come to a place where you'll feel better and you'll be out of whatever that was. Yeah.
How do you help people rebuild their self-esteem, or rather their confidence, after experiencing trauma or rather emotional pain?
I believe once a person has gone through some experiences in life and their self-esteem is affected, it's important to just be gentle with them and be patient with them, even while encouraging them, you know, because sometimes probably they will feel they are not worthy, or they are not as important compared to other people. So you just constantly reassuring them, you know, constantly working with them to restructure the way they view themselves, because it's a gradual process. Yes.
What message would you give someone who has lost hope in their healing journey?
You're never too far gone, and it's never over until it's over, actually. So there is no giving up when it comes to healing. You have to keep on pressing, even when you're not seeing the signs or, you know, the visible changes. But you just have to keep on doing it. And eventually you'll get to see the positive results.
You've said that, and I've remembered the other day I was sharing with people, like 2 weeks ago, I was sharing with people the story. I don't know if you heard that story, the story of the woman who lost her child, and she had gone through a series of losses. She's called Joyce, I think, if I'm not wrong. Her story went viral online. A few years ago, she lost her husband and children to what we call it, floods in Narok. The Narok, during the time yenye kulikuwa kunanyesha alafu kuna flood, she lost her husband and 2 boys in that. Then she remained with her 1 child. And then after she lost her husband and children and the boys in the floods, her mother, who was sick, got worse. 6 months down the line, her mother passed on. After her mother passed on, you remember her mother was sick, but after she heard that Joyce had lost her hubby and the children, aliingia into, like, I think alishtuka akagonjekea, she became worse. Then 6 months down the line, she died. Her dad, Joyce's dad, after hearing that Joyce's mom has passed on, got into shock, died. A few years down the line, Joyce wakabaki yeye na msichana wakabaki. So they were pushing through life. So last year in December during Christmas, they went for vacation in Mombasa. And as they were cooking, the boilers exploded, burnt them. The girl had 60% burns, Joyce had 40% burns. And as of 2 weeks ago, the day I was reading that story, her child passed on. So she was left alone. She has gone through that much pain, and I'm just thinking, how do you encourage such a person who's gone through so much loss? They have lost literally everyone they called family. Eventually she will leave the hospital. What is she coming back home to? How do we encourage such people?
I think
that thought is what crossed my mind as you were talking.
I think for such a case, she has gone through a series of losses. So she actually needs a professional to work with her through the journey, because I don't think it will be enough in this to just have friends and family talk to her. She needs more help so that she can even come to a place of eventually living a normal life, because you know grief has the capacity to paralyze a person if it's not dealt with. So for her to become, you know, for her to become better eventually, she will need to seek help.
Yeah. That story was so sad.
It is. It
was so sad, but anyway, it's okay. What advice would you give your younger self?
That's interesting. Embracing myself wholly, you know, loving every part of myself, not comparing myself to other people, and just being more confident in who I am, in my own skin. Definitely that.
If someone watching you today is struggling in silence, what would the first step be? What would you advise them to take as the first step?
struggling in silence, I would advise them to reach out for help. Because most times, whatever you don't talk about will eventually eat you from the inside. So it's important to get someone, even if you're not really comfortable sharing with people you know, probably friends or family. You can get someone you don't know, maybe a pastor or even a licensed therapist or a counselor, you know, because some people are not able to effectively open up to people they know. Yeah.
Before we come to a close of this conversation, time moves very fast. But before we come to a close of this conversation, is there something else you'd want to share with us before I ask you to share with us your final thoughts?
I want to encourage our viewers to seek help. Yes. If you are struggling in any stage of your life, it's important to seek help as early as possible, because that gives you a chance to actually get to a place of healing, and nothing is ever too broken to be fixed. So you can't look at yourself and say, the stage I am in at life, this is my end. There's always hope. There's always hope. There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
I think I'm taking home that statement you've said, nothing is too broken to be fixed. Why? I might even print it and put it in my house somewhere. It's a very powerful statement.
Wow,
Nothing is too... I think we always think that I can't, this is too bad, it can't be fixed. And then we write ourselves off, or rather we write a situation off without even thinking of avenues to fix it. So that goes a long way. Thank you. So as we wind up, like let's say ule ukweli akime one day pona mara 150. So today I'm being ya ukweli. Tell us where we can find you on social media.
You can find me on Facebook, Faith Muhonja, on Instagram, Therapist Faith Muhonja. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting to come back again.
Asante sana.
All right. That was Faith Muhonja. I mean, ningetaka kujua sana, and I will still go and rewatch what happened last week. I would really want to know part 1. If part 1 was like this, how was part 2 was like this, how was part 1? And I hope umelan kitu. Me, I think I'm taking home that statement that I'm just from sharing with her, that nothing is too broken to be fixed. If it is broken, it can be fixed, and that's my take home today. I walk out of this studio with that assurance that there's nothing that cannot be fixed. Like, I think in the morning, I was in the spirit when I encouraged you. I told you the conversation I was having with the guys in the morning was, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's never too dark. It might be too dark right now, but there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Step up, step out, and step big. That's it from Empowerment Cafe. Usitouch your dial tafadhali. We are coming back with WCW onto our question of the day. And if you comment on the question of the day, please go to our social media handles and comment on our question of the day. I will be reading your answers, I will be reading your comments, and I will be reading your salams. In the meantime, we are taking a very short break.